Hello and welcome to Food Fusion. I'm Charles Matheson. In this podcast, I talk about a little bit of this, a little bit of that, mainly food, travel, and culture. Today, I'm going to talk about my staycation. I was on vacation for the last 3 weeks of August, those glorious weeks, and I did a lot of things in my hometown of New York City, particularly in Brooklyn. So, what's interesting is that the neighborhoods I grew up with are like all new. They're like constantly evolving. Like when I was a kid, Bedford Stuyvesant was not what it is today. Like where I live in a part of Bedford Stuyvesant called Clinton Hill. Okay. Back in the day, this was just do or die, best die. Okay. Now it's Clinton Hill, it's fancy, it's schmancy. I really like it. And what I realize is that from my point here in North Central Brooklyn, I have access to three new neighborhoods. And the way this happened was just like I said, I was on my staycation and I just started walking. And friends invited me to meet up for drinks, for dinner, and just a whole slew of circumstances occurred that got me moving around three neighborhoods that are directly connected to Clinton Hill, Brooklyn. So that's really something. I think like Brooklyn is a destination now. Like back in the day, there was this thing called the bridge and tunnel crowd. So people would like the destination was Manhattan. So and I used to live in Manhattan, and I used to call people who came from the outer boroughs to Manhattan the bridge and tunnel crowd. But now I've been living in Brooklyn for like more than 15 years, and the flow of people is opposite. People come from Manhattan to Brooklyn now. So that is a reverse in fortunes, so to speak. So the three new neighborhoods I feel like I've gotten now are Bed-Stuy, Crown Heights, and Prospect Heights. And all of these neighborhoods are within walking distance. And so if you like brownstones, small town feel in a big city, come to Clinton Hill, where I live. You could take the G train to Classen Avenue or to Clinton, Washington Avenue, and you could start there. It's very walkable. So, the first neighborhood that I really kind of like discovered is Prospect Heights. And so I was meeting a friend to do a walk in Prospect Park with his dog. And so I had to walk along Vanderbilt Avenue. And Vanderbilt Avenue is a beautiful avenue. Just beautiful shops and bars and cafes. And just you really feel like you're in a small town. And one place in particular that I liked there, it was this French bakery called, I know I'm not saying it right, it's in French, Mille Feuilles Cafe. And it's at 622 Vanderbilt Avenue. I had the apple turnover, and that's not what they call it. They call it something really nice in French, but I had that, and it was amazing. And they had these macaroons. It's very, very French. So there are tons of other bars and restaurants to check out along Vanderbilt Avenue, and right at the tip, you have Prospect Park. So I've lived in New York my whole life. I grew up in Flatbush. So I'm very well familiar with Prospect Park, but I never walked around Prospect Park the whole loop. And I did that. It's about 4 miles, and Prospect Park is the premier park of Brooklyn. It's the central park of Brooklyn. It's very well maintained. And so if you are here in the city, or you're visiting, or you live here, I recommend going for a walk around Prospect Park to do the whole loop. It is beautiful. There has a lake and there's tons of activities to do. So check that out. The next neighborhood that I rediscovered was Crown Heights along Franklin Avenue. Now, this strip of Franklin Avenue is unrecognizable to me. When I was a kid, living in Crown Heights was not something one aspired to. It was mostly working class Caribbean people, and it was not very desirable. So, if you wanted to be around Caribbean people, working class people, it was great. I love my Caribbean people. I'm Caribbean. However, in terms of like bars, restaurants, and diversity, it wasn't very diverse. Now it is completely gentrified and does not resemble anything of its past. Its past is just vanishing before our eyes in a good way and a bad way. It's still very Caribbean, which I like, which gives the neighborhood an authentic feel and doesn't make it feel so sterile. And it's Franklin Avenue is like the strip. So you take the 4 or the 5 train to Franklin Avenue, and then you walk the strip in the direction to Clinton Hill. I think that would be east to Clinton Hill. And so I was in Crown Heights for a number of occasions with friends. And there are a couple of places that I went to that I'm going to share with you. One place I went to is Kissa Kissa. So Kissa, and it's at 667 Franklin Avenue. And it's a jazz themed bar. It has hundreds of jazz records, actual vinyl records, and the bar plays those records, and it's decorated in a classic 1920s jazz style. It has a very nice outdoor space which is equipped with heaters for the winter. And when I went there, I got table service. I don't believe you can just go to the bar and order. You can sit at the bar and order, but it's like upscale kind of bar, and everything was done really well. It's not cheap, so be prepared to spend a little bit. However, it is worth it because, like I always say, when you go out to a restaurant or a bar, you're not paying for the food, you're paying for the experience. And it was a very nice experience. Another place I went to during my staycation was the Crown Inn. And this is at 724 Franklin Avenue. And it's I guess it would be considered an Irish kind of city bar. The drinks are well priced, not expensive, but they're not cheap. It has a enormous backyard. You'd look at it from the outside and you wouldn't think the backyard is so big. I think the backyard is bigger than the actual bar. It had a great vibe, very diverse crowd, which I really liked. So check that out when you're there. And then I went to a cafe slash restaurant called Cafe Mado, Mado, and it's at 791 Washington Avenue. And this cafe is not cheap. It has a menu that they actually put like stamp the date on it. So you know that they are making the meals fresh. And I had like a pasta with pesto, and then I had a brioche with like egg and anchovy that was soaked in this oil. It was good. And there is a great outdoor space, and very nice. Everything's very well done. Very, very well done. And it's very hard to get a table. I was there with a buddy during the weekday, so we were able to go right in. So if you're thinking of going to check it out, a weekday would probably be your best bet. Finally, there is Bedford Stuyvesant, my neighborhood. Technically not my neighborhood, but you know what I mean. So I got this email from Brooklyn Magazine, and the email said it was called 15 French restaurants in Brooklyn that you have to check out. So I was intrigued by that. So I went to two restaurants in Bed-Stuy. One I went to was called Chez Oscar, and it's at 310 Malcolm X Boulevard. And this restaurant is kind of like Bohemia meets French cuisine. It has an eclectic vibe, very delicious food, very good portions, which is like, I think, very important these days because going out to eat in New York City is not cheap. It's never been cheap, but it was more affordable. Now it's definitely costs more to go out in New York City. So getting a good portion is helpful. So I had the lamb burger, and I never had a lamb burger before, and I love lamb. So it has a very a gamey kind of taste, and it was a thick patty of lamb, and I think it came with French fries and a salad, and I think it was only like $18, which is nothing for lamb, and lamb is not a cheap meat to have. The vibe of the restaurant was amazing. The design, they have an enormous outdoor seating. As soon as you walk down the street, you're going to say, "What is that thing that's out on the sidewalk?" And that is Chez Oscar. So I would definitely, if you have a group of friends and you want to do something fun, check that out. Then there is El Antagoniste, and that's just down the block from Chez Oscar, and that's at 238 Malcolm X Boulevard. It's a French bistro. I had the bouillabaisse. A bouillabaisse is a French fish soup, very buttery, very creamy, and it was very good. One thing that I kind of didn't like is that the pieces of meat were not cut up. Typically in a bouillabaisse, you have halibut, you have your mussels, your scallop, and the halibut. And I think there was also um, another fish in it. I'm not sure what it was, but they put the whole fish in it, which kind of didn't make it feel so appetizing. However, you did get a lot of fish. So I will say that. I would just say, just like I like the fish when it's broken up a little bit. It's kind of like when you get a ham sandwich in a hero and you want like the thin slices. I prefer like the fish and the bouillabaisse to be like broken up in small pieces. So, but that does not take away from the taste. The taste was great. The bread they served with it was great. The design of the restaurant, of the bistro. The bistro is like a small restaurant with comfort food. It was great. A wonderful experience. I definitely recommend going to this establishment. So if you come to Clinton Hill, check out the establishments here in Clinton Hill. I'll do another recording on that. Then go to Prospect Heights, Bed-Stuy, or Crown Heights, all within walking distance. I'm telling you, you're going to have an amazing time. So that is Food Fusion for today. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.